Welcome to the Infinite Musician Podcast. I'm Dan Weiss, creator and owner of MFile Music Theory and Songwriting. We are all about helping you gain control of your creative passion and power so you can become the musician you are supposed to be, making the most impact with your music by creating the music that you hear in your head. Welcome to our very first very sweaty episode of Infinite Musician TV. I'm pretty excited to get this ball rolling here with this. It's been a long time in the making. I've kind of been dabbling with a bunch of different things in preparation of this and moving towards this basically. But yeah, I'm happy that you're here to join me. And I mean, I'm so late because live streaming comes with a giant bag of technical issues, no matter what or how prepared you are. So fingers crossed. But first, we're going to start it all off with a little story about me as a young lad when I first decided to go to music school. Basically, I was not, I don't know. I was good at school if I was interested, but mostly I was not interested in school. So eventually, my passion was really music, and I kind of decided to take a stab at it, make a run and go do what I felt like I had to do, which was go to music school and become a better musician, become a better writer, really just gain more control of what it is that I really felt I had to get out there. So I worked really, really hard. I studied my face off and I practiced and I tried to get myself up to snuff to enter a jazz program. I was predominantly very much a rough around the edges, to say the least, rock and roll kind of musician. I was young and ripped jeans and Led Zeppelin, everything. So you can imagine coming into jazz school, that was a bit of a shock, and I had to kind of refine a lot of things along the way. And but luckily I passed my audition. I got into school, which I felt like was such a huge accomplishment in it of itself. I wanted to learn more about how music worked so that I could improve all my writing, and learning jazz would be the way to do that. But I wasn't totally sold on transforming into a jazz musician. So, getting into school at that point was just the beginning, because the point of the program comes from, this is the stream of education and you're going to become a jazz musician. Wasn't a whole lot of room to navigate that, which was kind of at odds with me being like, well, I just want to learn about crazy music theory stuff and how I can write better and expand my music. So there was so much more info that I had to deal with and process. And on top of all of that, everybody was really, really fucking good at their that can be intimidating, obviously, because, if you play an instrument, you start making music with it, that it feels like it's a pretty intensely personal process some of the time. If that's where your music has traditionally been coming from, is making music from the heart and writing music, personal songs and things like that. So it can be tough to kind of transition into a place where everybody just seems like they're infinitely better than you and better than you will ever be. So that's a really tough thing to deal with. So then you start to kind of doubt yourself. You're like, do I even belong here? I struggled to get here, and now I'm here, and there's so much more work to be done. And, there's always that nagging critic in the back of your head that's like asking you that question of like, do you really belong here? Have you really earned it? Are you supposed to be here? That was really, really tough. That was a tough situation to be in. So we started coming through the program, and there was a lot to adjust to. One particular thing we had our weekly guitar private lesson. It was kind of like guitar masterclass, basically. We'd sit in a room and there'd be like 3 of us, I think there was 3 or 4 of us that were in my original private lessons that first year. And man, the stuff that we were talking about was just going over my head. We had an incredible teacher. But he was very professorish in his approach to guitar, which like did not jive with me at all. And he was very much of the school of like, I'm going to talk to you like you should understand this. Flies. And, that was hard because I was still trying to grasp the most basic stuff. And he was throwing some very advanced things right away to be like, this is going to help you and whatever. So I was immediately drowning. I wasn't understanding all of the things that we were being asked to do. They'd be talking about stuff and I'd be writing things down and I'd feel like I had it. But then I would go home and I would look at my notes and I'd be like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to practice. I'm not sure I understand what this is. And sometimes asking, more often than not actually kind of led to a bit of like chastising. The classic, there's no angle, just do it. Like I need clarity so I can do it. So that led to some tension and I started getting angrier because I felt like I wasn't getting what I should out of it. And the teacher was definitely feeling like I'm not putting the effort in. So now we have an impasse. We have a setup for some conflict. It was tough. So we study all semester and we come up to the exam time. And basically it was like, okay, everything we've been learning up to this point is going to be on this exam. So I'm studying and I'm trying to figure everything out. And we had to put together a chord melody, which for those who don't know, you basically have like bass notes and chords, like rhythm, as well as the melody going on at the same time on the guitar. So you're basically playing your guitar like a piano, approaching it like a pianist would. So that takes a lot of skill and it takes a lot of relearning your instrument if you're not used to thinking of guitar that way. So I was like, I'm going to nail this. I know that this is tough and I want to take on this challenge and I want to make something of it. So I plowed through and I stayed up all night and just putting this thing together and I felt like I had achieved something. Like, at the very least, if I screw up everything else, then this will at least get me some kind of respect and I can show that I tried. So first thing that Friday morning, that gray, fateful Friday morning, I walked in and, we started doing stuff and he'd asked me to do something and I was like, and I didn't get it. It was like a complete, like some of the things I didn't get it quick enough. So he's like, no, you don't know it. Next. And some of the things he would tell me and I'd be like, I don't know what you're asking me. He's like, okay, fine. And so that happened a couple times and, I botched it. And that was a really hard thing. And I'm just, getting the flop sweat and just can feel that like he doesn't care, kind of thing. And it's like, I do care. I don't know how to show you. So he just started like, that's it. Like, just pack up. Like, you're done. Like, I didn't even get to show you my chord melody. Like, let me show you this. Can I at least play this for you? And he like turned to me and was like, okay, play it in A flat. And of course, I had learned it in B flat. So I'm like, and looking and I can't start. I'm trying to figure things out. And he just goes, see, you don't know it. You don't know the music. You just memorized the shapes. Pack your stuff. Better luck next time. I was like, my whole world crumbled. That was a really hard one. I was so upset. I was very angry. I slammed the door when I left. Made a big, stupid, childish scene a bit. Because I felt so burned, you know, like, this is what I'm supposed to be good at. I worked so hard to get here. So I'm obviously supposed to be here. And I can't even get a fucking fair shake. And that was rough, you know? Like, I had felt these kind of feelings in a much, much smaller sense in the past, where it's like I wanted to be part of stuff. I felt like I was on the outside of people who were playing music and I wanted to be a part of it. But there was never any experience that was like that. That stuck with me really hard. Those words stuck with me. And I remember like trying to scoff it off and be like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like I learned it, you know? But it always was like burning in the back of my head for so long. So, you know, even if I didn't immediately understand it, that was always kind of this motivation, I think. I decided like I'm never going to have a situation like this ever again. I don't want to feel such utter defeat and failure over something that is clearly important to me. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to go to school for it. So I got to just pick up my boots. I'm going to study. I want to understand how music works. If I really don't already, if that's the case, then fine. I want to study and I want to get really good. And I went to town. With tonal harmony and jazz harmony and everything, I really wanted to peel back all the layers and figure out, like, what am I doing wrong? How is it that I'm approaching this differently? And, you know, so the years went on. We get into second year, middle of second year, and that's like the hell year. There's so many crazy projects that they put in front of you, and so many assignments, and you're juggling all of these things. It's a crazy busy time. And you hit that wall. You get the burnout with all this workload. And I think they kind of did it on purpose, because it's like, if you can somehow manage to get through all of this, then you're golden. If you find a way to survive this, you're always going to look back and be like, well, at least it wasn't as bad as this. You can always take another challenge, right? But all the classes were just dumping so much info. There was so many details to keep track of, you know, and the workload, you know, I was taking jazz harmony, tonal harmony, ear training, 18th century counterpoint, which is just like studying melody in the style of Bach, how it moves against other melodies and stuff. Like, that was really important. And of course, arranging. Oh yeah, let's learn to write multi-instrumental projects, and just it was insane. Like, I thought I was going to blow up at some point every single day. And on top of all of that, it just felt like all the classes were compartmentalized, which is silly because they're all about music, but they're dealing with what I assumed was just different topics. Well, like, we've got counterpoint. Counterpoint is counterpoint. Arranging is arranging. Jazz harmony is the harmony of jazz. But I felt like I had somehow lost knowledge about music instead of making any progress. Like, I felt like I was just swimming in a sea of all these details, and I wasn't sure if I could keep my head above water. So it's coming up to exams. it's crunch time, and I've got all these papers and all these assignments spread out over my bed from all these different classes, and I'm trying to organize everything. And it was like, I'm looking at all these things, and I'm looking at all the different information that we have for each class, at this time. And it was just like light bulb moment. And I could see how all of the lessons were actually somehow about the same thing, and everything was connected. There were threads of ideas here going to this class, and this class was like connecting to this. And it wasn't like totally like it'd been happening maybe the whole time. I don't know. But that was that moment where I really got it. And it was like I just shot through space, had that karmic realignment moment with the universe where it was just everything got so simplified. So it was like going back and organizing my ideas of music and drawing conclusions. And I was able to reduce so much of the musical process and what we were learning to the very simplest general idea of everything is tension and release. Everything is... And that's the same for like storytelling. That's the same for writing a book. That's the same for a movie. It's the same for a song or a symphony or, whatever. There's that's such a fundamental component to storytelling and creating something that moves and takes you somewhere. It's controlling the levels of tension and the levels of release. And that kind of completely changed my understanding of music, songwriting, improvising, just creating in general. It was this irreducible thing. It was like Rene Descartes' "I think, therefore I am," the irreducible minimum. All music, everything is tension and release. And I mean, we'll talk tons more about all the different facets of how we can approach this in every possible way. But realistically speaking, you build up tension with your chords to release them. Your chord moving from one chord to another, there's tension and release. Or tension and more tension, or tension and only some release, but not all the way because it's not final yet. And when you start, like, if you have a song that you're working on right now and you feel like this is a new idea, or like it's hitting you in a new way, then look at some of your old songs and see how you've implemented it, maybe without realizing it, or how you can continue to implement these types of ideas and try and map out the shape of the entire song. Try and map out the shape of each part of the song, each chord progression or phrase, or, and keep reducing it down and seeing what is moving, what's causing tension, and what gives release to that tension. Because you may start to see like, oh, I'm giving all of it away before like the climax of the song. And then it's happened so many times that what's supposed to be the most important part is now no longer new. It's just the same. We've been here already. So I want you guys to really internalize that, because I think that's one of the biggest foundation ideas that you can have in music. And when you're building upon that, if you're keeping that as a fundamental, then you're always going to be able to come up with something that really genuinely moves and progresses. That's the name of the game, folks. If you want to learn more about any of the topics discussed on today's episode, or if you'd like to expand your horizons so you can make the most amount of impact with your music, please be sure to check us out at mfile.ca.